Formula One sells everything. The manager has gone crazy. Haas says it has turned down several purchase offers over the past 18 months. Last week, Hyundai, one of the potential buyers, made a post on social media, then deleted it, showing the outline of a Formula One car and asking, "What if?" The Italian press speculates that Kimi Antonelli might end up at Alpine, opening up a spot for Max Verstappen to race alongside George Russell. Drama incoming. Ferrari is testing a new rear suspension that promises to bring the car back to the strong performance it showed in China. Hamilton and Leclerc are heading out on track. Globo is now taking over Formula One in Brazil. The news was made official after our video last Friday. And I ask myself, and I ask you, why, after all, are some people so angry? A Brazilian motorsport legend is releasing a book, and you should read it. Friday, July 18th, 2025, there's no Formula One, but there is news. So, sit down so we can talk about everything. Let's go! 𝘾𝙤𝙥𝙮𝙧𝙞𝙜𝙆, the discrete team principal of the Haas team in Formula One, spoke about several attempts and approaches aimed at buying the team that they have received over the past 18 months, in the last year and a half. Haas, however, seems to have found new life after the introduction of the budget cap in Formula One. And even though they're always fighting in the midfield, it seems like they've left behind the constant threat between 2019 and 2022 of ceasing to exist. The team boss, Komatsu, mentioned that he's seen a lot of internal changes in the team and talked about the boss, the owner, the big boss, Gene Haas, describing him as a racer. He's always supporting us. I don't know everything, but I do know that in the last 18 months he's had countless offers to sell the team, but he's not interested. He's really enjoying being a team owner in Formula One right now, one of 10 this year, 11 next year, and that's a very privileged position. He got involved at a time when the sport wasn't like it is now, and he stuck with us through a very tough period. His talking about COVID. 𝘾𝙤𝙥𝙮𝙧𝙞𝙜𝙆 even convinced the boss to go with him to the track, specifically during the Goodwood Festival, when the two of them drove the 2023 Haas VF23 at a demonstration during the Historic Classic Car Festival, or the Classic Historic Car Festival, whichever you prefer. Komatsu insisted that Haas's commitment, which has often been questioned, is real, and he returned to that topic. I can say that recently we've had some people really pushing to buy the team, but he's not interested. He even got annoyed by the fact that these guys kept asking so many times. Here's a little comment from me. Right now, Formula One is what you'd call a seller's market. In other words, it's a market that favors those who are selling. Since the number of spots on the grid is limited right now to 11 teams, with the creation of the 11th slot for Cadillac, the value of every team tends to go up as the sport keeps making more money, drawing bigger audiences, and more manufacturers are looking at Formula One and thinking, why aren't we part of this championship? All of this makes the value of the team's shares go up. I wouldn't be surprised if Haas, in this case, Gene Haas, sells control of the team at some point in the future, but he'll only do it when the offer is too good to refuse. In fact, the first step to making a good sale is to say you're not interested in selling, and then the price goes up. Let's not forget, as I even mentioned in Tuesday's video about the season review, that Haas carries Toyota stickers, and Toyota is one of the giants keeping an eye on Formula One again. And speaking of giants interested in entering Formula One, Hyundai last week sparked speculation after a cryptic post on their Instagram, which has already been deleted, by the way. The post showed the silhouette of single-seater cars, the suggestive sound of Formula One, and the phrase, "Something fast is coming." To make things even more intriguing, the post included the hashtag HyundaiF1, which sparked a lot of interest from people, the specialized media, and led to plenty of speculation. If the goal was to pull off some classic clickbait, it worked. After all, here we are talking about it. But the difference between the official account of a giant, reputable manufacturer, which is already involved in motorsport across various categories and is now eyeing hypercars in the WEC, and an Instagram page specializing in Formula One gossip, or a YouTube channel where the guy doesn't even show his face. It's a big deal, because after all, this is the official account. We can't just blame it on the intern. The head of Hyundai's motorsport division, their competition division, is actually someone we know well, Cyril Abiteboul, who was the boss at Renault for many years. And Renault Alpine is one of those teams that everyone thinks will be sold at some point. When asked, the FIA neither confirms nor denies any discussions with Hyundai about, for example, creating a 12th spot. And the outgoing CEO of the Renault Group, Luca De Meo, has always sworn up and down that he wouldn't sell the team. But nobody believes him. After last week, when Max Verstappen and Toto Wolff reportedly met in Sardinia for a conversation that may have sealed Max's contract with Mercedes, the Italian press is strongly speculating that George Russell would stay on the team, forming a duo with Max. And the one making way would be Kimi Antonelli. The young Italian from Bologna, who is in his first season in Formula One and is a product of Mercedes' development program, could be sent to Alpine, which will use Mercedes engines next year, to mature a bit away from the spotlight, since racing for Mercedes always draws a lot of attention, and then, who knows, return in 1, 2, maybe even 3 years, this time to race for the main team. Most of the rumors have always talked about Russell leaving, but a recent article from 𝘾𝙤𝙙𝙯 𝘾𝙤𝙤 suggests that Antonelli would race for Alpine, and Bottas, Mercedes' reserve driver, would be moved to Cadillac. Bottas' name is also mentioned as a possible replacement for Franco Colapinto still for this year, for the second half of the season, or at least for the final third after the August break. All of this is because Toto Wolff and Flavio Briatore were seen talking at the Red Bull Ring, and according to the Planet F1 website, Toto Wolff confirmed that Bottas' future was discussed in that conversation. George Russell made it clear that he wouldn't mind sharing the team with Verstappen, and that if he were Toto Wolff, he would also go after the services of the four-time champion. George said that he is confident his contract will be renewed and that it's all just rumors. And he said, "The fact is that Toto has never let me down. He gave me his word, but he also has to do what's best for the team, which includes me, but also includes hundreds of other people." Yesterday, Ferrari spent the day at the Mugello track testing the new rear suspension, using one of the filming days that every team is entitled to when they go on track with non-competition tires, which have less performance and are limited to a maximum of 200 kilometers in a day. Both Leclerc and Hamilton were present, and both went out on track. The new rear suspension involves a redesign of the casing, the housing, the shell of the gearbox, where the suspension mounts are attached, especially the upper wishbone. The purpose of the modification and the extent of what was done is anything but trivial, and it has to do with the car bottoming out on the floor, on the asphalt, which led to Hamilton's disqualification at the Chinese Grand Prix. The root of the problem, or the beginning of what's happening, goes back to the initial design phase of the 2025 car. Ferrari made the decision to create a smaller rear suspension to push the engine further back and also move the cockpit, which, in the team's view, would create more opportunities to develop aerodynamics in this final year of the current regulations. To achieve this, the mounting positions of the dampers were redesigned, but they weren't creating a strong enough angle to withstand the aerodynamic pressure, the bumps, and to prevent the car from bottoming out, especially with a full tank over the distance of an entire race. This led to the wear that caused Hamilton's disqualification in China, and as a preventive measure, they started running the car higher off the ground. This then resulted in a severely compromised aerodynamic setup. Look at the domino effect and how far-reaching these things are. After China, they made the decision, let's change the rear suspension. And look how long it took for the parts to be ready, since the gearbox has been a structural component of the car since the mid-60s. It is the chassis. You have the monocoque, the engine, the gearbox, and attached to it is the rear suspension. In other words, it's the body of the car, or at least part of the body. The race in China took place on March 23rd. Today is July 18th, and these parts are expected to debut next week at Spa. And with this, Ferrari hopes to be able to run the car lower, since the suspension will withstand the bumps and aerodynamic pressure without scraping the asphalt. And Ferrari decided to take this to the track at Mugello and use up a filming day, because next week we have a sprint race weekend with only one free practice session, so there's much less time to test setups and see if the contraption works. Reed Globo is, or rather will be, officially back broadcasting Formula One on TV in 2026. Globo broadcast Formula One in Brazil for over 40 years, up until 2021. The series was with TV Bandeirantes, where it stayed for 2021, 2022, 2023, and now 2024 and 2025, and then it returns to the Rio-based network next year. The official announcement happened after our Friday video. I posted a shorts here that I recorded in the press room at the racetrack, and since then I've seen a lot of negative reactions. It's worth analyzing, after all, what people are talking about. A lot of folks are saying, from now on, I'm going to subscribe to F1 TV. I think it's worth remembering that F1 TV in Portuguese has the same commentary as on television, so if you don't like what Globo says, you'll find the same thing inside the paid app. So maybe the solution isn't to subscribe to F1 TV, but rather, before that, to take an English course, because otherwise you'll have to put up with the same people you already don't like. In the official announcement, Globo mentioned that it will broadcast 15 Grands Prix on free-to-air television, all 24 on its paid channels and sport, and probably also on its apps like Globoplay, etc. And a lot of people are complaining, but it's worth remembering that nowadays, there are very few countries, really just a handful, that broadcast the entire season on free-to-air TV. In the United States, for example, ESPN broadcasts the entire season on a pay channel. The ABC network, ABC, only broadcasts 5 Grands Prix, namely Canada, Miami, Mexico, United States, and Monaco. The same ESPN broadcasts to all of Latin America and, except for Argentina and Mexico, there are no races shown on free-to-air TV. Argentina and Mexico show some of the sessions, but there are no free practice or qualifying sessions on free TV, and Mexico only broadcasts its home Grand Prix, the Mexican Grand Prix, to the general public for free. Germany has 7 races on free-to-air TV through RTL, China, Emilia-Romagna, Spain, Canada, Belgium, Netherlands, and Las Vegas, with all sprints and qualifying sessions shown on pay TV. In this case, that's German Sky Sports. A similar situation happens in Austria, Spain, Portugal, France, and Australia, which until a few years ago, just like in Brazil with Band, used to broadcast the entire season on free-to-air TV. Now, things are different. Fox Sports broadcasts the whole season on pay TV, and only one national TV channel airs the Australian Grand Prix. The only countries that will continue broadcasting the entire season on free-to-air TV in 2026 are Luxembourg, Hungary, and Romania. Miguel Crispim, a former mechanic at 𝘾𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤 back in the early days of Brazilian motorsport in the 1960s, is releasing a book, Born a Mechanic. I know Crispim by sight. I've met him at 2 events. He's the mechanic for Flávio Gomes Cars, and I'm promoting his book release here without him knowing and without being asked, because I believe things like this are important so that the history of everything that happened on the tracks doesn't die. This needs to be told, and it was. It needs to be immortalized. It needs to be read and known. Therefore, I'm leaving the link to buy the book in the description. The QR code is also on the screen so you can get Crispim's book. I don't know if there will be a launch event, a book signing night, or anything like that. It's worth keeping an eye on the website and on social media. But get the book. Help immortalize this story. I've already bought mine. By the way, this week, on Tuesday, we had the mid-season review video. There are 24 Grands Prix and we're exactly halfway through, with 12 already held. We talked team by team, compared percentages, how much each had done by mid-year last year, and how much they've done so far. Who went up? McLaren, Williams, Sauber. Who went down? Ferrari, Red Bull, Aston Martin. And who stayed more or less the same? The other 4, each in their own place. It's worth checking out. On Sunday, we published the interview I did with Reginaldo Lamy, which was recorded on Thursday, the day after Christian Horner's fall. Of course, we talked about that. We talked about Formula 1 on Globo. We talked about Hamilton, Verstappen, Ferrari, Galvaro Bueno, Ayrton Senna. The interview is doing really well. I recommend you watch it if you haven't yet, in what was, without a doubt, one of the most special moments in this channel's history. Me interviewing and welcoming him here, chatting with him to tell you all the story of one of the guys who taught us, to love Formula 1 and has been covering this sport, talking, commenting, reporting from the studio for 53 years. On Wednesday, the little big story of when David Coulthard survived a plane crash. The plane landed and skidded down the runway. He walked away unscathed. And the following weekend, he put a McLaren on the podium in Barcelona. Can you believe it? Yeah, that's right. It's worth checking out these videos, especially since we don't have a race this weekend. So, leave a like, it's free, doesn't cost a thing. You know it really helps the channel. Do me this favor, do us this favor and comment down below anything you want. Let me know if you watched the interview with Reginaldo, if you saw the mid-year review, and whether you agree or disagree with my analysis. Speaking of which, yesterday I was on the Motogrid podcast with Bruno Bonifacio and we talked exactly about the Formula One season so far. Since I had already studied for the show, already made a video about it, everything was fresh in my mind, it was a great chat. And during Blinda OU Respond, a segment they have there, I shared some interesting stories. If you follow the channel here, you probably already know most of them, but I even told a funny story about my brother-in-law. So you don't miss out on anything we do here. We have notification channels. Did you know that? You didn't know? Well, now you do. Instagram, Telegram, and WhatsApp, where you can join and start getting an automatic message every time I post new content. Each of them has over 2,000 members getting notified, so we don't have to rely on YouTube to remember to remind you. Here on the set, you can see the 𝙑𝙘𝙧𝙀 products that we're going to give away in the next live stream. At the end of the month, always during the last live of each month, we raffle off the gifts they provide for our subscribers. And we'll also have a book by Reginaldo Lamonato that he autographed for you. Want to see? I'm not making this up. It's really autographed. I'll also leave the link to the 𝙑𝙘𝙧𝙀 website down below, pinned in the first comment and in the description. I'm putting the QR code on the screen to make your life easier. And to enter, you have to be a channel member, joining one of the 4 plans we have here: Guinea Haas, Paddock Pass, Stefano Domenicali, and Lawrence Stroll. Come here to the live, shout "I want it," and you're in the running. The gifts on this channel are our way of giving back for the support we get from our nearly 1,000 subscribers. And I keep running after more and more gifts for you, okay? Last but not least, check out our social media channels: Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and TikTok, where we have content all the time. They're passing the aerobas here. The link is down in the description. And then it's Friday. For me, for you, for all of us. So, you know, it costs. That hug. It's Friday. Judgment.